Fola Shade, good morning. Bidemi, good morning. Pro David, morning. Anne-Marie, Mufelola, Joshua Hedrick, Shagun Fatumo, Ojekwa Israel, Omonike, Yomi Jagade, T.Y., Ladishorunke, Maloney, Kola K, Oluwafumelayo Dina, Mashu, Esong, Gladys, Wilson, Stella Nuhu, Niyi, Pro David, Shioma, Fumi Jaboda, T.Y., Anastasia, Nena, Apostle Yomi. Well, welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and share the link to this program, to this message, and then we'll be ready to continue. Today, I've left my African topic behind, and now I'm talking on the general message to ladies, a general message to women. Unfortunately, a lot of women, anyway, before I begin this message, let's make sure that we share the link already. So let's go ahead and share the link before we continue. So please go press the link button. The share button. It should be under your video. Let's go press the share button. Go share the message. Then we'll be ready to continue. All right. So if you are ready to go, here we are. Have you shared it? Have you shared the message? Have you shared the link? Have you pressed your share button? If you have, then we can start the teaching. Today's message is stop living. This week I'm talking to ladies, okay? I'm talking to women this week. And the message today is stop living in the fear of losing your husband. Stop living in the fear of losing your husband. Stop living in the fear of losing your husband. Now, this is a challenge to a lot of women. And this is one major reason why a lot of marriages collapse. A lot of women actually live in fear. A lot of women live in fear, and we have to face it. And the ladies have to face it as well. We've got to face your fears, and we've got to talk about these things. A lot of women are living in fear, and it is that fear that makes a lot of marriages to collapse. A lot of marriages will never be successful because of the fear that women are living in. This week I've been talking about what men would like their husbands to know, and I've been talking generally to women, what women need to know about their husband, what women need to know about marriage to make their marriage more successful. One of such things is that every woman that wants to be married and wants to live a successful married life, you need to think, you need to look, every lady like that needs to examine herself. If you are a woman and you want to be married, and you want to be married for long, and you want your marriage to be successful, you want your family to withstand all the storms and challenges of life, one thing that you have to be aware of, or you have to examine yourself about and fight against, is to fight against the fear factor, the fear of losing your husband. That fear is present. If you do a poll about the fear in the life of women, and regarding their family, regarding their spouse, regarding their children, or regarding just their family, a lot of women live in perpetual fear. They live in different kind of fears, but fear could be a very constant companion in a lot of marriages, in a lot of relationships. And this is something that the ladies don't want to admit. They don't want to talk about it, and many don't admit it. They don't talk about it. They don't agree that they actually have that in their lives. But, you know, largely the truth is that a lot of women are having this fear secretly tucked up in their heart. So, yeah. So let's talk about this fear today, the fear of losing your husband. Before we continue with this message today, I would like to challenge every lady that is here today, that is watching this program, to look into our own heart. Even if you are not married, there are some women that are not married, and still they have that fear. So you might still be single as a woman, and you are already fearing what will go wrong in your family, and you're already afraid of all the things that will not be right, and of all the things that will go wrong in the relationship. But let's start with those who are married, and even those who are not married, but let's look into it, and let's examine ourselves right now, and let's look into our own hearts and do some kind of inventory of our heart, of our state of mind. Let's look into our situation right now. Look into your heart. I would like you to examine your heart and see if that fear is present there or not. The fear of things going wrong in your family, the fear of you losing your husband, the fear of divorce, the fear of your husband leaving you, your husband cheating on you, your husband, all kind of fears that women have. Now, that fear is one of the very first things that you have to deal with if you want to have and build a successful married life. If you want to build a successful family, you need to look into that fear. Look into your heart, examine that fear, and see. I will actually encourage you to get a sheet of paper. I will encourage you to get a sheet of paper, and you can get a sheet of paper and write down some of those fears that you might be having, because it is not just one, it could be many. People could have as many as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 fears. People could have as many as 10 different fears that are bothering them, but they themselves would not admit. And I'm talking about ladies this week, so I'm talking to women this week, to ladies. And for you to really help yourself, for you to really overcome a lot of challenges that people have in families, you have to sit down, get a sheet of paper, and be sincere with yourself. Get a peaceful place where there are no noise, where you are alone with God or just with yourself, and where you can think and be able to go deep into yourself and see what are those things that I'm really concerned about. What are those fears that are really innate in me, that are down there, sitting down in my heart, about in regards to my family, in regards to my husband, in regard to my children. And then if you get the list, it is easy to now begin to confront each of those ones little by little or one by one. But if you will not make the list, if you will not look right into yourself in the mirror, if you will not look at those fears in the eyes, you will be doing a lot of irrational things. You'll be doing a lot of things that are not logical, that are not explainable. They might be explainable to you, but they will not be explainable to the man. And the man will be frustrated all the time. And the man will find it difficult to understand what is going on. And sometimes you yourself might find it difficult to understand what's going on because, you might not even know which particular fear is bothering you right now. And you'll be behaving, in some strange ways. You will know that some things are not right, but because you are so insecure and because of that fear, you'll be doing a lot of things that could bring down the family. So let's look at some of those fears that that we confront. Actually, before we look at the fears, let me see if I could check a scripture for you here and see what the Bible says about this first. Okay, in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 6. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 6. For those who are yet to share the link to this message, please go ahead and share the link. Please go ahead and share the link because this message is so important. And, let me tell you as important as it is. 90% of women are experiencing this thing I'm talking about right now. 90% of women, 90%. That is a high percentage. 90% of women have one fear or the other in regards to their family. So 1 Peter 3, verse 6. And the apostles knew about this fear. And Jesus knew about this fear. God the Father knows about this fear of women. And that's why he's talking here about fear. In 1 Peter 3, 6, it says, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. You remember we read that the other day? Calling him Lord, whose daughters you are, if you do good and are not afraid of any terror. Can you believe it? You are the daughter of Sarah if you do good and are not afraid of terror, of anything. What is terror? Anything that, frightens you, any kind of fear. Don't be afraid of any kind of fear. I never even saw that scripture for a long time. I didn't, it's so easy to miss that scripture in that place. It's so easy to miss it. I'm looking at other translation. In King James, it says, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters you are, as long as you do well and are not afraid. Any amazement, it says here. But I like New King James better. New King James says, if you do good and are not afraid of any terror. So, I'm just reading from the Bible. This is New King James. And this gives the reason and the explanation for a lot of marriage breakdowns. A lot of marriages collapse because the wives are constantly living in one fear or the other. Women are constantly driven by one fear or the other, and especially they are driven and are manipulated without even knowing it by the fear of their husband for their husband. The man is writing here. I think this is Jide writing. Dr. Adelaja, you are so correct. This type of fear makes some women to be so insecure, you see, and overprotective. That is so right. Some begin to overcompensate, seeing dangers where there is no danger. It's so correct. This could unknowingly eventually destroy the marriage, and it has in many cases. Yeah, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right, Jide, because, I don't know how many of you have seen that particular word in that scripture before, but, I've been reading the Bible for 30 years now. I mean, seriously, as a born-again Christian. But I'd never noticed that word fear. And that fear is one of the major reasons for breakdown in family. Fear is one of the major reasons for a breakdown in the family. Most families fall and fail and collapse because of the fear in the family. Yes, there are some times that men also might be having their own fears, but in most cases, the fear factor is coming from the woman's side. So that's why I think that all of the ladies that are listening to us here, we need to do an inventory of ourselves. Even before you are married, some ladies actually take that fear and take it inside their marriage or into their marriage before they were married, while they were still single. Some women actually had this fear and before they were married, and they kept on, with that fear and keep on, nurturing that fear. And when they married, they are so insecure, and that fear, just brings a lot of trouble and a lot of damage to the relationship. So fear is a major reason why marriages fail. And even if the marriage does not fail immediately, in most cases that marriage might be suffering just because of that fear factor that the woman is been having, and that fear that she had been hiding in her heart, or that she had not even confronted. A lot of these fears, a woman might not even admit that they have them. Women might not even be ready to surrender or to agree that they have this fear, and that this fear is a factor in their lives. And since you don't confront it and you don't face it, is hidden and is manifested in different other ways, that is giving your marriage a lot of headache and a lot of problem. Now, what are these fears? What are most likely reasons for these kind of fears, and what are they connected with? And where are these fears coming from? Where do women get these fears from? And what are the possible fears that you might be confronting in your own life? And how do we overtake them? And how do we overcome those fears? So I want us to actually look in more details into this kind of situations, this kind of issues that women face, the fears that bother the women in family and that bring a breakdown in the home. What are these fears? Where are they coming from? What are they connected with? And what can a lady do to overcome these fears and build a more successful family? Darlene is saying, I have a problem with this one, not only of my husband, but anyone that come my way. I don't want to lose them. Yeah. Gift says, fear comes from the devil, not from God, and we all know the devil come to steal and destroy. Yeah, fear comes from the devil. That is the ultimate source of fear, right? But some fears are not really directly coming from Satan. Some fears are actually connected with some of our, it's not just like Satan or like some demons or something. No, some fears are legitimate and some fears are explainable. Some fears are actually connected with our soul, and some fears are connected with our bodies. Some fears are connected with real life situation. Yes, I know that we normally say fear is from Satan and fear is not from God. That is the general understanding of it. But in real life, there are some things that are not, Satan doesn't have anything to do with it. These are just natural human fears. And we should also confront that and face it, that it's not just Satan to blame for every kind of fear that we have. There are some fears that are just normal for women and for human beings because we are living in the flesh and we are living in life. So it's not, I would not just say, oh, it's Satan, that's all. This is more than just saying that is Satan, okay? Jide Craig says, okay, I read what he said. Anastasia says, most of the fears of wives are inherited from their experiences, what they had witnessed of their mothers mistreated, okay, by their husbands. That's all right. An extended family in Africa, yeah. And Anastasia, what I think, this fear needs to be dealt with before a woman actually goes to marry. I would advise any young lady to look into herself, examine these fears, especially if she is coming from a bad family or from an unstable family or from a crisis family. She needs to sit down and really analyze herself, really discover her fears, the source of her fears, and how to deal with it before she marries. Now, the other fear that you mentioned here is so legitimate. I mean, it's so true. So many people are suffering from it, especially the Africans. If they are coming from a polygamous family. Coming from a polygamous family, most likely they have seen a lot of things that are wrong with family life. And some of the things they have seen could have created that fear in them. And so, it is good that we are talking about this thing, because not often you will hear anybody raising this topic at all. Not too many people talk about the fear of women. I mean, the woman's fears, the wife's fears, and the source of those fears and how they could be overcome before the marriage starts. T.Y. said, we have been programmed like this by circumstances, history, our wife tales and everyday news. You are on a long thing, pastor, but this really can be one of the most phenomenal deliverances on this platform, and I'm taking notes, sir. Yeah, you see, she knows what I'm talking about, that these fears are real. This is not just the kind of thing that you can just claim. For example, I think that if you are having a fear of coming from an abusive family, I think it's not just about praying. I think you need to go and get some professional help. Yes, we can pray about it. Yes, we can, believe God that God will do the miracle for you. And God can do the miracle sometimes. But you know what I think? You need your subconscious is somehow damaged, especially those who have gone through abuse, either abuses in their from their parents, or they have gone through abuse from their previous marriages, or they have gone through abuse from a polygamous background or something like that. We should not just be too spiritual to ask for help. It's just like saying when we are sick in our body, if you have headache or toothache or you have, cancer, or you have a growth or something like that, you don't just pray about it. Yes, even though we know God could heal, and we pray about it, but you also go to see a doctor, isn't it? Yeah, in the same manner, just like we could go to see a doctor and to tell them about our issues, even though we are praying about it, even though God could do a miracle. So also sometimes we underestimate the danger of psychological issues. Sometimes we don't face our psychological issues. We think that those are just spiritual things, and we think we don't need to go to a specialist. But the thing with specialists, especially psychotherapists, or what do you call them, psychotherapists, is that they have been trained to deal with these kind of things. They have been trained, they have been coached, they have been trained, and they are actually therapists, and they're actually tablets and therapies that could help you to recover. There are some treatments that could actually help you to recover from abuse. And there are some trainings and some practical trainings that you need to go through to be healed, especially if you have been in any abusive relationship. There are psychotherapists who are giving this kind of training especially, and their expertise is to help people like you who have fear of coming from your past, from chasing you everywhere. So if you are still suffering from it, it means that you need help. And you don't just say God will do it, God will do it. It's easy to say God will do it, but sometimes we say God will heal us, but we still have to go to the hospital, because healing sometimes could come immediately, but you could lose that healing because you need treatment, you need cure. When your body is damaged, yes, God could heal you supernaturally sometimes, but most of the time you need cure. You need to be cured. You need to be ministered to. The things that have been removed, the things that have been damaged need to be restored. So it's the same thing when it comes to fear. Most of the fears that women have in families. Davida said, I guess women are given the responsibility of holding the home together, while the men seem to be permitted by tradition to do as he pleases. No, I don't think so. I think the men are supposed to hold the home together. I think it's the responsibility of the man. He's the head of the family. He's supposed to hold the home together, not the woman. And I think we have to change that order. The woman, she is the weaker vessel. She's not the one to be bothering to hold the home together. I think it's the father that needs to do that. The foundation is the one that holds the home together. It's not the decorations. The women are like the beauty of the family. They are the decorations. But the man is the foundation. He's the one to hold the home together. So that scripture is very strong, very legitimate. That 1 Peter 3:6, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, okay, we looked into that, calling him Lord, yes, whose daughters you are, as long as you do well and you are not afraid. You are not afraid. Fear could bring about destruction of homes and families. So how do we overcome that fear? That's what we are going into right now. That's what we're going into. We have to learn to overcome our fears. It's not after we're just married only. If you're already married, especially if you're already married, you need to be quick to, do an inventory of your fears. You need to be quick to begin to work on them now. And because if you don't, some people could be married for 30 years and they still divorce. Some people could be married for 40 years and could still be divorced because the older you grow as a woman, the older you get, the more serious your fears go, the more serious your fears grow, because you are becoming older and you are becoming less protected, less secured, and the fear factor will keep on growing. And so if you don't deal with it as fast as possible, the older you get, the bigger your fear will become. The older you get, the bigger your fear will become. So that's why you must sit down now, do an inventory of your fear, and let's begin to deal with it. Anastasia said, I've witnessed too many times growing up in Ghana of the gross mistreatment of the in-laws. Okay, that is another factor right there. In-laws, because of what girls have seen, how women have been treated, how wives have been treated by their in-laws. That might have also been one of the fear factors. So if you are faced with such a situation whereby you know that you have that fear, you know that because of what you have seen, especially in regards to in-laws, that there is actually that fear, now you need to address it. You need to address it. Pearl David said, ladies, your fear is betraying you. It is destroying. It is a fragment of your imagination or a sum of your experience. Many, even who don't know God, undo a man's role seamlessly, and you have God. There is nothing you cannot do, especially through Christ who strengthens you. Neyi said some women already have the fear of losing their fiancé. So right from courtship, the fear is carried over into marriage. In most cases, the fear is unfounded. Yep. Nena says, it is not good to entertain fear in any way because the Bible says that fear has torment. Yes. Remember that the opposite of fear is faith. May God help us understand. Yep. Joy says, Pastor, I know a man that gave his wife HIV. Wow, HIV. That's almost AIDS because of the same trust, because she was trusting too much. She only found out when she gave birth to her twins. The man denied that it was from him. The woman is late now, because the man was on drugs and refused to give her so she could die for people to believe she was the one that gave him the disease. Too bad. Well, you know what? That is one of the reasons for fear for women. And I think it is legitimate to have that kind of fear that, a man could give a woman HIV. And that's why in our own church here, we don't allow any relationship. We don't allow any relationship until the man and the woman have gone to do medicals. We must put it as a rule. We are living in a world now that it is foolish just to trust like that. And it is foolish to just, go into any relationship blindly. So in our church here, we don't just marry anybody. If you cannot come out with your medicals, if you don't bring your medical certificate or medical clearance, we don't wed you. We don't wed people. We don't marry people in our church if you cannot bring your medical certificate. You must bring your medical certificate, especially in regards to HIV, hepatitis B, C, and things like that. So any transferable disease, any disease that could be contaminated, we demand that for a girl to date a man or for a man to date any girl from our church, you must bring that, your certificate, your clearance. Because we've gone through the situation in our church whereby a girl married, she was a virgin. So there's no way for her to be accused of bringing in the disease. She was a virgin and married a boy, and the boy was having HIV, and the girl didn't know, and he never told her. And instead, he thought he was healed because he came to church, God, they prayed for her, and he believed that he was healed. So that's why he never told her. And the lady got the disease. She got AIDS as well, and she hated him like crazy. Okay, Pearl is saying that many women are in fear because of the bad example they have seen of their fathers, how their fathers treated their mothers, which is good, which is a true observation. So she's afraid because of how the father treated her, treated the mother, and treated the siblings. Yeah, and that fear sometimes leads to lesbianism. which is true. And you say, I think even men must pay attention to this message. I think the men also need to know this message, because I think it might be okay also for the men to ask, if you are not married, or even if you are married, I think it's good for men to sit down with their wives sometimes and address their fears. You know, I had to do that myself. I had to sit down with my wife and say, tell me about your fears. Do you have any fear at all? Do you have any fear for me? Do you have any fear for the children? Do you have any fear that I might die, or, you know, I might leave, or, you know, what, or might not have anything? What are the fears that you might have? And we sat down together with my wife and spoke about it. So, and I think that every man needs to sit the wife down and sit down together and, you know, and dissect this thing and talk about these fears that a woman could be having. Because if the fear is there in that family, you know, it's going to be holding back the family. It's going to be causing a lot of pain, a lot of crisis, a lot of commotion in the home, and you will not know what is the reason for it. So I think it is also the responsibility of the husband to help bring this sanity and this, you know, this peace to the family and to your spouse. You need to help her be at peace. You need to help her to, you know, to escape from those fears, and, you know, to assure her that everything will be okay. But also, the woman must be frank. The woman must be truthful to themselves and be truthful with their spouses as well. And, you know, you need to sit down with your husband and let her know that you have these fears, and let's confront them. Let's look into them, or let's go and see some specialists, some experts, to be able to help us deal with it. Ladi Shurunke, even mother-in-laws that have done all they can and the man still committed adulterous relationship could poison your wife's mind to be fearful. Men need to guard against this as soon as you can. Yeah. Yetunde said, as apart from fear of past experiences, women also suffer from the fear of the unknown. For their children, it is a fear is a terminal disease if care is not taken. Anastasia said, oh, how I have been delivered from the stigma of seeking professional help. Yeah, some Christians don't believe in seeking professional help, and that's a pity, because just like you seek doctor's help, this is a professional, and that's how we're supposed to seek professional help, even for emotional stuff. Nena says, most fear from women come from the fact that they notice that their husbands are cheating on them and discuss with him without any headway. They end up in fear. Even if you know that your husband is cheating on you, you don't just need to end up in fear alone and be suffering that fear. Go get some professional help. Go and consult with a psychologist. You go and meet the experts and let the experts tell you what to do. Paul says many African women are in denial, don't seek help, and they suffer in silence. Yeah, it's a pity. It's a pity. Well, let me look in more details into this topic. All right, let's examine this topic in more details. So, some of the reasons that might be responsible for these fears, these women fears, the fear of losing their family and things that our husband is number one. The number one factor of fear in the family, in the life of a woman is low self-esteem. Especially if the lady is coming from a family where there was no father, where she didn't have a father love. Maybe there was a father there physically, but it was not playing the role, or it didn't play the role it was supposed to play. So if you did not have a father that was there for you, that covered for you, that gave you that protection, a lady might be suffering from factors of fear, and that might be even before she goes into marriage. And in a marriage, low self-esteem could spoil and destroy your family. It's better for a woman to be sure of herself, because the greatest cure for low self-esteem is to know that you are the daughter of the Almighty God. And then to make sure that you get that confidence and that assurance before you enter into the marriage. If you enter into the marriage with low self-esteem, that will plague you every day of that marriage. That low self-esteem will follow you, it will plague you, it will keep on giving you headache. So it's better for you to stop. Even when you're already married, you still need to stop and say, okay, let me find a way of dealing with this low self-esteem right now. Now, next reason why women, for fear in the life of women and wives, why wives fear that they could lose their husband, why they fear for their husband. The second reason is some women, maybe this is not a lot, but some women do think that they do not deserve their husbands. Some women think that their husband is too good for them, or their husband is more educated than them, or their husband will meet somebody better than them, or their husband will meet somebody more beautiful than them, or more educated than them. So some women fear, and women could fear the fact that they don't deserve, that they do not deserve their husbands. And in that case, if you're already married, or even before you marry and you think you don't deserve the man you have, sit him down. Sit that man down and ask him to tell you, why does he love you? Why did he approach you? Why did he choose you? Let him tell you why he chose you. Let him assure you of his love for you. Not just by saying, I love you, but let him give you the reasons. Let him tell you what he sees in you that makes him to value you. Let him let you know the qualities that entice you to him. And let him, remind him of it and remind each other of it. Let your faith be based on the fact that you have something that other ladies don't have. Ask the man, what are the things that you see in me that you don't see in other women? What are the things that, and he might be saying, no, it is low self-esteem, why should I tell you? No, but tell him that you need to know, it will help you. And that he needs to help you too. He needs to help you so that you are sure that they will never ever have you will never ever have any problem. And if you are sincere, and if the man sees that you are sincere and that you are real and that you really want to hear his opinion, I think any reasonable man will be happy to let the wife know why he chose her and what are the things that he is seeing in her that entices her to him. I think it's normal for a woman to know what are the qualities that entices the husband to him. So that is another thing that might be the cause of fears, of women fear in the family. Next point. Another reason why women might be experiencing fear in the family could be because of what they have seen in their children. Because of what they have seen in their childhood, not in their children, but in their childhood, while they were still children. I'm talking of maybe how their fathers mistreated their mothers, and they think that, they don't want to repeat that kind of treatment, and they don't want their husband to treat them the way their father treated their mothers, or maybe because of the way their father treated them. Maybe their father was abusive towards them. And those are the kind of cases where I say that you might need to go for some consultation and for professional help. So if you have seen some horrible pictures or horrible scenes while you are growing up as a young girl, those things could affect you. And if the fear is there, you need to face it that the fear is there, and you need to begin to talk about that fear and begin to find a way to overcome the fear before you go into marriage. Even if you're already in the marriage, you still need to find a way to overcome the fear of your past and of your upbringing and of your parents, so that it does not become like a corpse that you carry into your own marriage and into your own life, into your own relationship. One of the ways that a husband could help such a wife who is having such an insecurity and fear, especially if she grew up without a father, is for the husband to try to be the father to that woman that she never had. Because one of the main important roles of a husband in the family is to be a father. And one of the things that a father has to do is to speak positively into the wife, into the life of the daughter. So as a husband, you need to be speaking more positively into the life of your wife. You need to praise her more, compliment her more, notice more of her qualities and praise her for them, and acknowledge her for the things she's doing right and for all the things that are good about her. So that way you are not just being a husband to her, but you are also being a father to her, and those things could help her to fight the low self-esteem that she's having. All right, so next thing that could be the reason for fear in the life of women in marriage or wives is because of also their past experience in the sense that maybe they had some losses. If a woman suffered some loss when she was small or before she married, those losses could create fear in her. For example, if a girl lost her father when she was young or before she married, she might be thinking and be afraid that if I marry also, I might lose my husband. Or maybe she grew up without her father and her father died, and the mother, and she saw the way the mother suffered and the mother, what the mother had to go through by raising them up alone. Those things could also bring up some fear in the life of the woman, that I'm afraid that my husband might die, that I might lose my husband, or I'm afraid that I will be left with these children alone, and what will I do? How can I cope with it? And those kind of fears are legitimate fears, and we need to face them. And that's why we need to talk about this with your husband. And when you talk about it, that's why we need, that's why things like insurance is necessary. And that's why things like will, insurance, and planning ahead will be necessary so that these things could be addressed. And we need to just put some things in place that will be able to bring peace to the heart of the woman, and that's so that she will not be so much concerned like she was before. Another reason why a woman might be having fear in a relationship or in a marriage could be because of her fears and unfaithfulness on the side of men. It's not just because maybe the husband has been unfaithful. The husband doesn't need to be unfaithful for a woman to fear these days. You hear of so many stories of people who are having affairs, of people who are unfaithful, either in your own family or in your church or in the society. I mean, the story is everywhere. It's everywhere that men are promiscuous and men are not faithful and men leave their families and men have mistresses and things like that. So that could be another reason why a woman could have fear, and that could bring fear into the life of any woman. And that's why she needs to stop as well and deal with that, because if you don't deal with that now, the older you get as a woman, the bigger that fear will grow, because you will be getting older. Like I said, you will not be getting more beautiful, you'll be getting more vulnerable. And if you don't overcome that fear that your husband could betray you or could go out to another woman, that thing will always torture you, and those things will always cause stress and heartache in your own life and in your family as well. And so those things need to be addressed, and you need to have peace in yourself. Okay, and you need to actually face it and talk to yourself. Every woman needs to face it and talk to herself that, okay, what will happen if this happens? And what is the worst case scenario? And what is the best case scenario? And how do I deal with it? And how do I live my life further? So you've got to have your exit plan. You've got to have your exit strategy. That, okay, even if the worst things or my worst fear come to pass, what will I do? And you need to have those your strategies and exit strategies, and be at peace with yourself and know how to live with it, and know how to, to live your life in peace, instead of perpetually living in that fear, instead of continuously, thinking and worrying. So instead of you thinking and worrying, it's better for you to stop and say, okay, this is what I would do. This is what I would do. I have the decision written somewhere. I have my strategies there. So in case of anything, I know what to do. So that is much better than, just worrying and fearing. Instead of just living in fear of what could happen, it's better to plan what to do in case anything happens. So, so that you have your action plan and you don't just live in the fear. What about if the thing never happens? So, and if it happens, since you already have your plan, an exit plan or strategy plan or action plan, then you know exactly what to do. You know exactly what to do. Okay, another thing that women fear in marriage is abuse. Is abuse. And that you need to face it as well. If you are afraid of abuse, there could be reasons for that too. Either it's coming from what you have seen around you, or where you are coming from, or maybe you see some tendencies of abuse in the man, and you need to raise that topic and talk about it with him and let him know that you will not tolerate any abuse. And also you need to have your exit strategy as well. I'm not in the school of thought that just endure everything, just sit down there and endure everything, and it doesn't matter what happens, just suffer it and enjoy it. I think that you need to face facts, you need to face the situation the way they are, but you also need to have one or two exit strategy, how to deal with the situation and how to come out of it if anything happens that you'll not be able to deal with. So next thing that women fear and that causes break and the fall of the family is the fear that the women get from other people. Sometimes women live in fear in their families, and that fear might not be coming from them. That fear might be coming from what they hear from other people. So some people are having fear and having carryover fears. For example, you had what happened to your girlfriend or to your schoolmate, and then you are now afraid that same thing will happen in your own family. Or you had, what happened to your relative somewhere, and now you are living in that same fear. And so sometimes it's a carryover fear. And you need to also sit down and analyze that carryover fear. Where did I get this fear from? Where is it coming from? Some of us have carryover fears just by watching movies. Some of you have watched too much movies, or some of you have read too much soft magazines and mass cultured magazine, like all those women magazines. A lot of those women magazines will only sow fear in you. Natalie, no, maybe not Natalie, but I don't know their names. Don't let me mention the names of. But there are a lot of soft women magazines that women buy all the time. And when you buy all those magazines and you are reading them and you are reading all kind of stories, and unfortunately, those things might give you carryover fears, and the carryover fears, they become your fear if you are not careful, and you don't know how to deal with them later on. So I think that it's better to just sit down with yourself and examine those fears. Where are the fears coming from? If you got them from somewhere, if they are carryover fears from movies or and things like that, you need to stop watching those movies, and you need to go and get help on some of the African movies. Especially, they talk about witchcraft all the time, about somebody running after your husband, somebody wanting to take your own husband away, and some, demonic things and all that, well, you take it easy. You have to, that's why you have to stop feeding your spirit with those kind of movies. So where are the women fears coming from again? And other fear that women might be having is the fact that some of us might be having fears because we don't have much information about our husbands. You might be having fear that because you don't know where he's going, where he is at a certain time, you don't know what he's doing, you don't know how he's spending his time, you don't know how he's spending his money, he's not telling you what he's doing with his life. If that could bring a lot of fear to any woman. And I think you have to face it. You have to either sit your husband down and talk about the issues, or invite him to go and see the pastor. You might want to invite your husband to go and see the pastor, and for you people to sit down and talk about it. Because if you that's a legitimate fear. If your husband is not telling you anything, if he's not telling you about his plans, if he's not telling you about his plan for the family, if he's not telling you about his work, if you don't know anything about what he's doing with his life, if you don't know anything about what he's doing with his family, you don't know anything about your husband, you don't know where he's living, where he's going, where he's passing the night, where he's traveled to, when he's coming back. If lack of information can breed fear, and those kind of things. You don't just keep quiet. You don't just be patient in that kind of case. You need to talk to your husband, and if he's not going to do anything about it, you need to scream. You need to raise your voice. You need to talk to people he respects, and that's why no woman should marry a man that doesn't have a mentor or somebody that he respects, somebody who could tell him to stop. Somebody who could tell him to listen, and he will listen. If he doesn't have anybody to talk to him, to speak to his life, when crisis comes, nobody will be there to stop him. So that's why it is wise for a woman to always marry a man that has somebody over him, that someone he respects, and somebody who could speak into his life. What are the other things that might lead to fear in the life of the woman? I think another thing that could lead to fear in the life of the woman is insecurity, the desire to know everything, to know too much. Sometimes, a woman shouldn't try to know too much. If you try to know too much, what your husband is doing, who is it, what is with, and whatever, and you are going to look at his telephone, you are going to look at his letters, you are going to investigate after him, watching after him, suspecting every one of his friends, reading his text messages, and calling his friends and calling his and all those things, all those the curiosity and the desire to know too much or knowing too much about your spouse might lead to that fear as well. It might lead to trouble. Just trying to know too much and everything is doing. What is he eating? Where is he going? Who is he talking to? Who is his partner? Those things will just give you much more problems. They will give you much more headache than you need. So just know what you need to know. Bother yourself more with the concern yourself more with the matters that relate directly to your relationship and the matters that relate to your family. And don't put your nose in things that that shouldn't bother you too much. Focus on your own happiness, on your family life, rather than bothering yourself with what he's doing in his family, whatever has happened there, and all that. Those kind of fear, like I said, will only destroy your family for you. So, fear is one factor that every woman needs to deal with. Fear is a factor that every woman needs to deal with. If you will deal with the fear factor, you'll be a better wife, a more secured wife, and your husband will be a better husband and a more secured husband as well. And it will have less reasons to suspect you or to be fighting you, and you have less conflict and less struggles in your home. I hope you have all shared this message. If you have not shared the message, please let's go ahead and share the message today about fear, women's fear or wives' fear of losing their husbands. This message might be able to save a lot of families. So if you have not shared the message, please go ahead and share the message. Let's go ahead and share the message, and I will read some of your comments today. Shidima says, sir, professional help like a psychologist, counseling is looked at as a foreign and strange thing here in Nigeria. Well, we need to grow up. That's what I would say. We just need to grow up. We just need to grow up. If you really have problems and challenges, all those deliverances we are doing, we just make people go to do deliverance this, deliverance that, from morning to night deliverance. Sometimes we just need professional help, not deliverance. Anastasia said in churches, African churches, it's almost like a taboo to seek professional help. Well, it used to be a taboo to seek medical help as well. But now, even the pastors go for medical help. So I think, we need to break that. We need to break that stigma. TY say Kanye West, or what was that? Is it Kanye West or Kanye West? Meltdown really broke my heart. I don't know. I don't think I know who that is. But I know it's not exactly the same thing, but it's a kind of psychological issue. Even before a man or being rich does not make one immune. However, Dr. Adelaja is talking to us women. Yeah, things could happen in life. Things could happen in life. People could melt down. People could have psychological attacks and stressed up, and things could happen. That's why we all need psychological help. Daria Poneva, Pamogimne. Daria, napишите, пожалуйста, мне, если вы еще здесь, напишите мне мой личку, на почту или на сообщение на это самое. Noel said, this is another fear factor. A man at 70 can decide to play around because he wants a child from another woman because he lost his child. Can a woman do that? No. Jide Craig said, wow, the older you grow in age and marriage, the more insecure you could become if those fears are not addressed. Yep, very true. Yetunde says, do an inventory of your fears and let's deal with them right now. Yeah. Davida says, people feel vulnerable as they grow older, so this could multiply fears if the roots of such fears have not been treated. Yes. TY, do an inventory of your fears. So many times what we are afraid of only exists in our imagination, and we can fund them by dwelling on them. Yeah. David as well says there are some fears that are unfounded. Marian says, how about husbands cheating on their wives after marriage? Well, the wife needs to decide on by herself. I don't think that a woman needs to. If you know that your husband is cheating, is the decision of the woman. Either the woman will have to walk away from that marriage, or let the man go, or have to sit down with the wife. With the man, and talk to the man about his attitude and his behavior, and let her know if he's going to change or not. If he's not going to change, of course she has to let him go or walk away from that relationship. Noel Okushuku, is almost impossible to live without fear, but possible if grounded and rooted in faith. Courage is not the absence of fear, but courage is the ability to move on that belief in the presence of fear, not excluding objective thinking. Yeah, that is normal fear, right? That's just the fear that is normal for everybody. But there are some fears that are troubling you. There are some fears that can bring you concern and that could bring damage to your relationship. TY says, I love you, Dr. Adelaja. When I say this, that Pepe need to do a test before we start doing marriage or not, they think I am being over careful. I'm so happy, my mentor. This just strengthened my resolve. You can catch anything. Yeah. People need to do tests for sure. Monica says, Pastor Sunday, some women are afraid, mostly because even as a Christian, some men have girlfriends and so many relationships with the husband might make the woman afraid. Well, if you know that the man is having relationships, stop the relationship. Don't marry that kind of man. Don't marry that kind of man. And if you are already married, sit down with him, like I said, talk it over. If he's going to change, you can move forward. If he's not going to change, let him go. Yetunde said, open your eyes, ladies, before going into any serious relationship. All the necessary medicals have to be undertaken and cleared. So many diseases flying around now. Yep. Shioma said, Pastor, most African men don't want to hear their wives out. They are not interested in the discussion. Well, I blame the wife in that sense. You shouldn't marry a man that you cannot talk to. No woman should marry a man that she cannot sit down with and talk with. What kind of relationship would that be if you cannot talk? If you cannot talk to a man that is your husband, then you are not in an equal relationship. Then you are in a slavery kind of situation. So if a woman is opening her own koro eyes and using it to go and marry a man that you cannot talk to, she is to blame. And if you cannot talk to a man, you don't deserve to live with that man. If he cannot listen to you for you to sit down with him and talk, then you don't have a marriage. Why are you staying in that relationship? That is the most elementary thing you need to have in your relationship, to be able to sit down for an hour and get your husband to hear your heart. If you cannot talk with your spouse in a marriage, you don't have a marriage. You have a slave or a slave master, but you don't have a marriage. Pure says, because of these fears, women are dying prematurely in marriage. Yes. Marian says, another reason for fear is that the society expects too much from the woman. Yeah, that's why the woman herself has to decide which of the expectations of the society will she embrace. She is not a slave to just embrace everything the society says. She has to sit down and say, this one I'm going to accept, this one I'm not going to accept. This one I'm going to do in my family, this one I'm not going to do in my family. She does not have to do everything the society says. She does not have to accept all the expectations of the society about marriage. Every woman will have to decide at the end of the day, what expectation will she follow, what will she not follow. Monica says, Pastor Sunday, some women are very afraid of their in-laws, especially when the husband cares a lot about the extended family. Again, that kind of situation is when a woman has to call the husband and you have to sit down with him and tell him about your concerns with the family, with the extended family. TY, too many of our sisters, mothers, and daughters are in psychiatric hospital because of this kind of fears. Yeah. That's why you must talk to your husband. If you cannot talk to your husband, you don't have a husband. You don't even have a marriage. You are just living in delusion that you have a marriage. That is not a marriage you are having. Yetunde said, yes, Dr. Adelaja, there should be strong and tangible communication between couples about fear. Sometimes, even during the time of hormonal changes, women are going through hell within them and are afraid to talk about it. They force themselves to do what they are not happy doing just because they don't want to lose their husbands. Well, that's a pity. TY. Wow, yes, Dr. Adelaja, if the man will explain to a girl what qualities he sees, it will really affirm the woman and make her mind to be at peace. Yes, and that's why the woman shouldn't be afraid of raising up the question and saying, what do you see in me? Why do you love me? Why did you choose me? Princess Gildov said, Dr. Adelaja, it's like you knew. I did so when I asked my husband, Paul Eric, before we got married, what did he see in me? Good. Joy says, I know another 45-year-old, I know, is it a woman or man, that married a 22, or a man, married a 22-year-old lady. He was impotent and hid it from this lady. Wow. And the lady was crazy, busy going from church to church, from native doctor to hospital, looking for help, until one day she decided to try another man. Unfortunately, she took in and gave birth to a baby girl. Impotent husband denied the baby wasn't his and insisted they did DNA test. The result came out and proved the baby wasn't his. He left the lady at the hospital and walked away. That was the end of the marriage. Foolish man who knew he won't have children refused to forgive the woman and as to accept the baby. The lady is back to Abuja and coping as a single mom. That is so sad. Sandra said, I think some men do experience fear also. That's why they try to prevent their wives from communicating with the opposite sex. Things are really happening because of fear, but anyone affected should seek help if the spouse cannot help them. Yep. Olukayo, they say women do shout a lot, thereby loading their minds with all sorts of stories which they did not personally experience. Every movie could become a reason for suspicion of their husband. Yep. Joy said, the only reason my hubby gave me that made him marry me was I am sweet and a nice person. My advice to single ladies from my own experience: before you dabble into any relationship with any man, make sure it is defined from the beginning so you will not know where you are heading. Yeah. Nena says, sir, I do not think it is worth it for any woman to entertain fear of the husband going out for a younger woman because she is getting older. The man himself is not a stone and is also getting old. Living in fear is not good. Fumi said, I practice the exit strategy situation. I'm alive today and I'm here today only because I had an exit strategy. Yeah, I think every lady needs to have an exit strategy. You know, somebody said, no, believe God, God will do everything. Well, I know a lot of women who have died believing God like that because they didn't have an exit strategy. Tayo said, "You are Dr. Adelaja, you are my hero. You tell the truth. Most pastors don't address particular topics like divorce because of religious correctness. Many have died staying put in relationships that lead nowhere. God bless you, sir." Noel says, I came into my wife's life after her bad experience from her ex. I told her I have so much in me to accommodate her future, to make us forget our past, and she believed. That didn't stop her from jilting sometimes. All I do is to assure her and work towards it. Yep. Darlene says, sir, when I was growing up, I was abused as a little girl. I cannot sit on a chair in a living room, and there was a time I had to sleep on a carton. How can I go past this experience? All these things are holding me back sometimes. Yeah, that's why I say you need a professional help. There are people who are specially trained for this kind of things. So you need to go and see a psychotherapist. And Noel Okoshuku said, if there is anything I'm so sure about is the love I have for my wife. I'm so sure about that. Yes, I get challenged, but I stand by my love. My fear is losing my wife. Well, you need to talk to her about that as well. TY said, Dr. Adelaja, you have no idea what you have done this morning. God surpass your every desire. God comfort you on every side. God richly reward you for all you generously do for us. We cannot thank you enough. Deep cleansing, real issues, chain breaking. Thank God. Thank you. Neki says, I think idleness and lack of focus can cause women to keep investigating their husbands. The most important thing for me is a man that fears God. Even if he's stressed, he will willingly correct his ways. Brilliant. That is so nice. Frank Couture, insightful message. Yep, thank you. Jide Craig, thank you, Dr. Adelaja. Your tireless effort at saving countless lives will be rewarded by God. You have demystified the impression of big man of God by coming down to our level and meeting one-on-one with us. God bless you richly. Paul David said, Pastor, you missed a point. Number 9, another point. Another reason women fear is because they individually lied to themselves and society was deceptive in their upbringing to make them think how worthy and all should be in a man, and took whatever came our way to walk down the aisle. And lack of diligence manifested affair. That is, find your purpose before marriage. Making a living don't depend on a man. Yep, brilliant. I can never give enough reasons. I think there are too many reasons that I could be given on this platform. If we could say sometimes the gender of your children could bring fear as well. So if you have ladies, I mean girls only, a woman could be afraid of having only girls without having a boy. Paul Davis says, ladies don't be a woman that needs a man. Be a woman that a man needs. It is empowering that way. If you walk into marriage confidently, you can walk out even more confidently. Yeah. Abayomi said, but Pastor, I think the husband said, he doesn't love me. He only married me to come to the UK, and we've never really enjoyed the marriage. After walking out of the marriage, now people are saying different things, even pastors. It is their problem. They don't know what you have gone through. You know, it is their business. If they want to say anything, they have to be in your place. Nobody can judge you if they have not been where you have been. If you have not experienced what you have experienced, they don't know what you have gone through. Monica said, I don't think a woman, especially an African woman married to an African man, should be afraid of a cheating husband, because most men that are married still have girlfriends. Even as Christians, after marriage, most African men are never patient with their wives. Their behavior change, and most women endure. So sad. Paul said, men, a common lie is that women talk a lot. Yes, we do, but we hide abuse and fear. Women will talk about another woman's abuse than our own, for fear of shame, embarrassment, and going through exit strategy. Wow. Adaora said, hello, Pastor. Thank you so much for the information. What if the married man says he would not have extramarital affair and continue to do that? How do you address it? Do you still see a marriage counselor? You know, if he continues to do that and you have forgiven him so many times, maybe you need to let him know that you will not cope up with that anymore. Maybe it's time for you to walk away. Shukwu Amaka said, really, I feel for the woman, especially because most men are ignorant of what this woman passed through. This calls for an enlightenment from the side of the men. Yep. Gift says, thank you, my mentor. I learn from you every day, more and more. More grace. Thank you. Sandra said, an African man burnt his wife to death in Germany, as it was shown in today's news. And that got me thinking that what would have caused such a barbaric act? And now their children have been taken to a caretaker family. Wow. Nena said, you are truly the Messiah of our generation, my mentor. I pray for more grace. Poor David said, I'm single and I have life insurance and will plus beneficiaries due to almost a frozen or a dozen surgeries. They don't even know. I learned to do this because my mother though disease, had a will in place, and even in death, she tried to provide for me. Wow. Fumi says, God continue to bless Dr. Adelajah for us. Thank God I found you, sir. I'm grateful to God every day for this platform. T.Y. Dr. Adelaja is a gift for us from God. God loves us so much, he would not have He would not have us remain in bondage and darkness. Celebrate you, my life coach. Poor David. Ladies, please, if you are in the US, inbox me, please. That's what Paul says. Lara Shomoye said, normally it's a man that the Bible gave a helper, but we have turned it the other way around. Women needing help. There comes the fear. Flair Karim Matip. Wow, wow, wow. Talked about this topic on fear with one of my siblings yesterday. I will find time to hear this teaching definitely. Wow, my former pastor always tried to put fear in people. I saw I was certainly in danger there, so I quit. But with more courage than ever to speak the truth. People live in fear in churches because of many reasons. Sometimes some fake or false teachings are at stake. So sad, because church is supposed to be one of the places where people are taught to overcome their fears. I personally choose people I hear. My ears are more and more reluctant to nonsense things. Pro David, Pastor, I love you. If I marry, my husband must know God is first, me, my father, and then Pastor Sandey and him. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Blessings. Good night. See you in the evening.